Hello and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewsium.com.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Anne.
And hey,
Hey, hey.
we're on the same coast today.
Oh my God, I'm in the same time zone as
That's so
my friends and family for once.
so convenient.
It's very convenient.
I didn't have to be like, oh shit, it's going to be midnight by the time I'm ready to record for you.
It's going to be weird, but I'll be in your time zone for a couple months. So
Yay. She's been kind of on the road. So she's really been a trooper to get recording and editing done while traveling cross country. Thank you.
Of course.
We got some little oopsie daisies and follow-ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to start with a Scream follow-up because I'm just never
These
never
are going to be
done.
for the rest of your life.
I know. Well, it's crazy like how much I know, how much I've learned over the years, but like that something else could still like I could come across something new even in the 2 weeks it's been.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is like literally just kind of a weird discovery on my own because when I was pulling 1996 photos for the last episode for the reel that I did.
Yeah.
So do you remember that footage? It's like Drew, Courtney Love, Gavin Rossdale, and some other members of Bush, and they're like walking down Sunset Boulevard. It's like paparazzi.
Vaguely?
Yeah, and Drew's wearing that that really cute pink hooded coat that she had.
Okay, that's what I was picturing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I was just like scanning through those pictures and I'm like, who is this lady with them who looks so familiar and so out of place? Like she's like very conservatively dressed.
Oh.
And Drew's like hugging behind her. But I'm like, I know this lady. I recognize her. I have seen an interview with her, racking my brain for hours. And then it hit me later that she was one of the producers of Scream, Kathy Conrad.
How did you figure it out? Just it came to you?
It just finally came to me because I've seen interviews with her, about Scream.
Yeah.
So I went back and watched the footage, like the actual video, and based on what Courtney said that they were going to the Primal Fear premiere in a few days, it was literally like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks before Scream started. So I just thought it was kind of cool to see her with one of the producers, like clearly partying with her.
Wow.
And then I was looking at Kathy Conrad's IMDb and I saw she was a producer on Beautiful Girls. And if you remember, Drew went to that premiere, which was another like, she didn't go to a lot of premieres for no reason. You know what I mean? There was always a connection, but I never knew that. And so I was looking at the pictures from that premiere. And once again, we got to bring this name up, but Harvey Weinstein is like hovering behind Drew in a bunch of pictures.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, gross. And it was a couple months before Scream started filming. So
wow,
it's just interesting that she was like clearly still in the midst of working on, the aspects of the movie that she did. So
and probably supporting the people that she had then worked with.
Exactly.
So probably getting invitations to premieres. Like she probably got them all the time, but just like, oh, I feel like I should go to this. I really want to see the person's work who I'm working with.
Yeah. So I thought
or
that was
wanting
fun.
to work with in the case of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think that's totally worth bringing up. I love when we, there are so many images of Drew over the years that like we don't find out who's with her, like literally standing with her until years later.
Totally. And this is solving a puzzle. It's very satisfying.
So awesome. So the next Oopsie Daisies is my own. So I said maladroit as if I was some kind of like French scholar. It's just maladroit. It's maladroit.
It sounded really beautiful.
Oh, and just so everyone knows, it's a correction from our bizarre 96 episode when Drew said that's a word that she liked, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was to describe herself because it's like awkward.
Yes. So anyway, maladroit. I don't like how it sounds.
I know, it's a weird word.
So anyway, just one of those things, like Ashley wants to just be precise about things that may not matter. I do as well.
Apparently, this is just a new thing that we're going to talk about is cosmic coincidences. If you don't know why we're saying it that way, go reread Little Girl Lost and see that Drew was teased and called a cosmic cow. But we've turned it into something positive. So hopefully
it's now a segment. It's now a segment on our show.
So cosmic coincidences are when we've talked about something on the pod and then it like comes up in Drew's life currently, and it's happening all the time. Our friend Jolena is tracking them really closely. So it's fun that somebody else gets it. But To me, it's just a sign from the universe that we're on the right track with our podcast.
I love it.
Yeah. So we talked about a very old song that does not come up in normal conversation these days. In the last episode, we were talking about You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette because Drew had mentioned something about her in that bizarre article. And then she was introducing a guest on her show, like right afterward, named Caitlin Deaver. And like before she comes out, she like referenced that song because I think that girl like uses that as her karaoke song. So I was just like, weird. Why is the song coming up? So I thought it was fun.
It's really fun. So one other thing we wanted to clarify in this segment is on our previous episode, we talked about Drew's hairstylist in Bizarre 1996, whose name is Oscar Blondie. It turns out he'd also worked with her in Us 1997 and Mademoiselle 1998. And both of those were done alongside Gillian Fink Dempsey, who Drew has been a good friend of for some time, or at least was, and worked with her somewhat on a makeup line that she did called Deluxe years and years ago.
We'll have to get into that at some point.
So pretty neat. I mean, Ashley had a recollection that Oscar had worked with Drew previously. It turns out there was 2 other articles. Makes sense that you kind of probably had made a mental note about S97 since it's
really. You would think
we will be doing
that. I'm sure
layout
Oscar's probably worked on more with her. I've just like been slowly adding that information to our photo shoot spreadsheet. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were more, but I'm glad that you noted there were 2.
Yeah. And it was a spreadsheet that Ashley has compiled that I pulled that information from, but anyway, pretty cool.
Yeah, we've worked on it together. Don't give me all the credit. All right, we've got mail, Anne.
You've got mail.
Woohoo! More mail. Yay, just like we asked.
Yeah, and this is a cool one because this was actually from a review on Apple Podcasts. So this is from Tanya, who has been a Drewsium, I don't want to say follower. That sounds so like lofty of us, but she's been following our stuff for a while and she's been a great supporter. I'll say that, a great Drewsium supporter.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you want me to go ahead and read what she wrote?
Sure.
So Tanya says, I love listening every Drew's Day and have been a longtime follower of Ashley and Anne via the Drewsium website and Instagram page. So it's lovely to have voices to put with the content. And I feel like I've already known you both for a long time based solely on our mutual Drewbydom. I'm loving all the episodes so far. Keep up the great work.
Yay. That's a great review. Tanya.
Yeah, it feels really lovely. I mean, she did say follower, so I don't feel bad that you
I know, once you started reading it, I was like, oh, okay, she used that word herself. That's fine.
Thank you, Tanya. We super appreciate it. You know, this is like, it's simple and to the point, and it makes us feel like we're doing something and people are listening to it. So
yeah, like we're on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you would like to hear your review, we could read it for you on the air, but you got to go leave it first. And I think Apple Podcasts is the only platform where you can actually leave a review, which is kind of weird. You can rate on Spotify. I know that. No like written reviews as far as I could tell. All right. What's new with Drew? Guess what? There's a lot this week. There's a lot.
Yay.
So I have a feeling I'm going to be the one relaying a lot of this information to you, correct?
Yep. It's been a week where I have been on social media for a couple of hours as I'm falling down to sleep after driving all day.
Okay. So fair. You need a break.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's start with, I'm sure you saw this. Flower Beauty is releasing a really cute ET eyeshadow palette. It's so beautiful.
It is really beautiful. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, I forgot that my CVS doesn't carry flower anymore. So I went in there like, yay. And then I was like, wait, they don't have anything. I know. It's so cute. So some of the names of the colors are Gertie, since 1982, which I love because that's the year I was born. And Be Good. There's a lot of really cute names. And whoever is doing the like marketing for this one is doing a bang up job. Like the Instagram posts are really good. They're beautiful.
They're doing a good job. I did love seeing that reunion, which looks like you mentioned about, but I saw the picture of Henry Thomas, and I'm actually not gonna be able to remember anyone else who was there at the moment. So
Robert McNaughton and then Dee Wallace. So basically her ET family, like the family from ET.
Yeah.
They're all coming on the Drew Barrymore Show. By the time you hear this, it will be a day later because it's happening on Halloween on Monday. Yeah. So you guys should be able to now go see either on the drewbarrymore.com website or on their YouTube. Should have a couple clips. There was one clip already posted to Instagram, which looked really sweet. So nice to see, it's the 40th anniversary this year. And it's just so nice to see her with her first like real movie family.
Yeah.
So I guess this is like what they're doing for Halloween this year, which I'm a little bummed because I really have liked seeing her dress up on the show for Halloween episode.
I see.
Maybe there'll be something at the beginning. I was like, is she gonna like dress up like Rudy at the beginning? How cute
maybe they're not teasing that because they don't want to come out with it. Yeah. I have a feeling they'll do something. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay.
Great. So tell me about this Howard Stern thing.
Did you hear about this at all?
I think I saw a picture somewhere, but I didn't learn anything further about it. So go ahead
So I guess he's been talking about doing a Drew Barrymore dating game show, basically like Chuck Barris's The Dating Game. So, and she like referenced, being in Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and all that. So his wife, her name is Beth. She's like really good friends with Nancy, I guess.
Okay.
Nancy Javonin. I've noticed we always just say Nancy, and people like who don't know are probably like, who the hell is this Nancy lady? Nancy Javonin, who has been Drew's producing partner for Flower Films since like 1985. And like for some reason, Howard and Beth are like very invested in Drew and her dating woes.
Oh.
Yeah. So Beth came up with two people she knew personally who she thought would be good like candidates. And then there were two other more random people that I think maybe like Howard came up with.
Okay.
And Drew literally came in the studio and did the dating game where she couldn't see the four guys and she would ask questions and they would answer them. Yeah. So
was it cute?
I'll get into it.
Okay.
So I have a Sirius XM account, so I was able to listen to the whole thing, which is cool because I don't think you can do that otherwise. Like there have been a couple short clips, but if you want to hear the whole thing, I think you have to use that. But it's actually a little painful. So she like starts it off already giving disclaimers. Like she's like, I don't want the media to think I'm dating whoever I pick and we might just be friends and like I don't want my daughters to think I'm dating a bunch. Like she's already like I'm here for it, but I'm not really here for it.
It sounds like she was uncomfortable with it.
Very. So unfortunately there's been like some negative feedback about it because she is like she won't stop with the disclaimers, like bad. So she goes through the questions and it was like fun. And I really liked like the first guy and she ended up choosing the second guy. And I just didn't find him to be like her type, based on.
But were you as the viewer seeing their face or is it just audio?
And like our lovely friend Renata from Drew Barrymore Brazil, she was like, she's the one that told me it was happening. And she's like, I already found this guy's Instagram and this guy's Instagram.
Was it an audio recording? Okay.
Correct. They have shared some video, but I didn't see that like when I was listening to it. But she like showed me each guy's profile. So I was able to look at them and be like, oh, I don't think that guy looks like a Drew guy at all. I won't spoil too much about it. But basically at the end, when it came time for her to choose, I am not kidding you. She must have stalled for like a good 15 minutes.
Oh my God. And they had that live?
Yes. And it's like pretty painful. Like Howard is like begging her just pick somebody. And she's coming up with like every excuse in the world to like avoid it.
No, Drew.
For so long. So I can see why people are frustrated. Like it's not very enjoyable to listen to at that point.
What kinds of things are people saying?
I mean, somebody said like, wow, Howard like could not get control of the situation. Like he's really trying and she's just like she's like trying to get other people to pick for her. Like she is not.
Oh my God. Is this a like recurring thing that they're going to do? Or is it just like a one time?
No, I think it was supposed to just be a one time. And she's like, let me just get everyone's information and I'll talk to them if I want to. He's like, no, you're supposed to just pick one. Just pick one.
Oh, no.
She did end up having the guy she selected via Zoom come on the show. I haven't watched that yet, but I just don't see a connection there personally.
That's really awkward.
I think she picked him because he admitted that he was like kind of talking to someone else. And she said she liked the honesty, but I also think it was like, cool, now I don't ever have to actually date you because you're already talking to someone else.
I'm sorry, but that doesn't sound like something Drew would like at all, and I'm kind of surprised that she agreed to it.
I guess, I mean, she was saying she was really grateful that they were like looking out for her. Like she kept saying like people should always try to set up their single friends with good people. Like that part she loved. But like when it came down to it, she did not want to do it. I know. So anyway, I had to fill you in on that because it was very interesting.
I will want to hear it for myself, but
yeah, I'll give you the
I believe I will have a similar reaction to you and your description.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
To me, is like making me cringe a little bit already.
Yeah. In better audio fun times, Drew guested on the podcast Everything Iconic with Danny Pellegrino. He has been on the Drew Barrymore Show before. He's a real good like pop culture guy, and it was a great interview. So that one, go listen to. It's only about 40 minutes. She actually has him on Drew's News this past episode, but a huge portion of it is pulled from his podcast. So it's like a lot of overlap. So it's, you know, basically you really only have to listen to his because it has more. So there's a couple things I just wanted to mention. I don't want to spoil. If you want to go listen to it instead of listening to the things I'm going to point out, go do that. But there's just stuff I want to discuss with you.
Yes, I want to hear it.
Okay, so the first thing of note that I mentioned was that she talks about how she got so attached to the talk show that she realized she really needed to come up with an amazing plan B in case it doesn't work out, because like she was putting everything on it. Yeah. And she wouldn't say what, but she said there's some really good plan Bs that she like almost... She's basically like, I want a plan B that's so good that if plan A fails, it's actually great.
Well, so did you want to speculate what they are?
Well, she brought it up when he was talking about, gosh, everybody would love to see you and Adam reunite, or like you doing something with Cameron and Lucy, even if it's not a Charlie's Angels 3. And that's kind of when she brought it up. So I don't know. Who knows, right? Like it could be, but it was kind of cool to hear her sort of sound like maybe she's ready to do something like movie related again, which would be great.
Okay.
Another thing, I was like screaming because Danny was cool. He brought up some things that like you don't hear anybody ever ask her about, like all of the other reindeer and Batman Forever. So that was fun. And anyway, she was complimenting him. She's like, oh my God, you're so prepared. And people who research like this and come prepared are just like, that's so attractive and amazing. And I was sitting here like, Drew, that's what we do every week.
That's awesome.
She tells some really interesting stories about her dad. The way she talks about her dad was like pretty cool. I really enjoyed hearing the things that she had to say. I mean, it's nothing that was like, what? This is so crazy, brand new information. But it was stuff that she doesn't talk about that much. Like she even talked about, and we kind of skipped over the details of this, trigger warning for abuse, but like how when she was little, he like stuck her hand in a flame. Do you remember this when Little Girl Lost?
Yes, I remember it from the book.
Yeah. So
doesn't he say something like, you don't know pain?
Yeah. Like you have to learn how to deal with pain. Yeah. Yeah. But remember how she's like mentioned this a couple times, how we've only seen it like written, how he used to tell her to like kick the bag, like don't carry around like emotional baggage. Yeah. But she like does it in his voice and it's really funny. She's like, come on, man, you gotta kick the bag, man. So that was cool. In another cosmic coincidence, he brought up Scream. He brings up the fact that she was the voice of the principal in the Scream 2022. And she's like, literally no one's ever pointed this out. No one's ever noticed or said anything to me about it. And of course, I'm like, Drew. And he also brought up her sweater in the movie, which like, no, I've never seen anyone talk to her about that ever. So
what was he saying about it?
He was just saying like, yeah, your hair is iconic, but what about that sweater? Like, yes, like that's so great too.
Cool.
And she just said like the only note she said about it was like, oh, of course they always like light colored clothes for the blood.
Yeah.
But he brings it up a couple times, the sweater. So I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, has he been listening to us? I don't think so, but it's crazy. Another little note was when he asked her about Batman Forever, she said she had a huge crush on Jim Carrey at that time. like a lot, but I guess he like was so constantly in Riddler mode, like she never got to know him as Jim Carrey. So like she had a crush on him, but like he wasn't available. Only the Riddler was there.
Oh my God, I love it. But I also have a like, when you said that, I was like, oh, because I've never, okay, this is nothing against Jim Carrey necessarily, but I've never found him attractive.
Right.
Though I do, in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, he's an amazing actor, and I'm attracted to that character.
Okay.
But then I have a moment where I'm like, Jim Carrey and Tom Green kind of have a similar vibe in certain ways.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh, like a weird kind of gawky comedian type. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh, okay, so that might explain. And again, this is also nothing against Tom Green, but like when Drew was dating Tom Green, I remember my brother said, Drew Barrymore is dating Tom Green, and he said it like making fun of like my favorite person. And I was like, no, she's not. And he's like, she's probably going to marry him. And I'm like, no, she's not.
Wow, Lee. It's very, very prescient.
Yeah, I know. So yeah. So anyway, I just, yeah. And I was just like, no way, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm just like, oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like knowing that she was like loved and married a person who has a similar vibe. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh my God. Another crazy cosmic coincidence. This isn't so much the podcast, but if you remember when all of the Drew in the Rain was going around, I pulled the Barbara Walters interview from 1997. I pulled the clip where she talks at the end about the rain, and he brought that up. And
wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, what? Because I've never seen anybody connect that interview to the current Rain stuff.
Yes.
And he did too. I don't know. It's pretty weird.
Could have checked out, you know.
I left him a comment on the post from our How Do You Drew Instagram, and he responded in a really sweet way and said he'll have to check it out. So he obviously hasn't listened to us, but it was just weird. And then the last one, there was just so much. I was listening to this podcast like, what is happening? I think this one was on Drew's News. It was, but same guy, Danny. And they're talking about like Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber. And they start talking about the like intense and feuding fan bases that people like them have. And I just started laughing because we had that clip in one of our episodes where my husband's friend had asked me if Drewbies ever feud with other people like Beliebers.
Yes. And you also made a reel of it, did you not?
Yes, I did. He might have seen that. I mean, you can see stuff on Instagram without knowing like who posted it, right?
Absolutely.
So I thought that was really funny.
That's really great. I love it. Wow, I really want to listen to this.
It's great. And it's only about 40 minutes. So it's also available on YouTube. I will put a link to that on the episode page on howdoyoudrew.com. So check it out. It's a really great one. He was great. It was the kind of thing where I wasn't listening going like, oh, we could have done this better. I was listening like, oh, yes, this guy is a Drewbie. He knows his stuff. Yeah, it was
fun. Speaking of Drewbies, I have something funny to tell you.
Oh.
Okay, so not related to Drewbies that we know necessarily, but I was at a dinner with my cousin's girlfriend's family.
Okay.
And my aunt was telling them that I do a podcast and I love Drew Barrymore and all this. And then one of the other guests at the dinner said something, I don't remember how it came up, but I said, oh yeah, we call ourselves Drewbies, like Drew fans. And then she said, oh, Drew has had like a really fascinating life. And then starts like saying all these things about Drew's life, like how she, you know, everything that happened to her as a child. And then just kind of like, she was like spewing all these things.
Okay.
And then she said, oh, I didn't even know I was a Drewbie. And then sitting next to her on either side were like her husband on one side, and I forget who else on the other side. And then they said something like, I didn't know any of that. And then she points on either side of her and goes, not Drewbies.
I loved it. How cute.
It was really cute. So it was kind of funny. Like one of the things she said, which I thought was interesting, she said, oh, no one would really give her a chance in Hollywood until Adam Sandler.
Oh.
And then I was like, I wanted to be like, that's not actually true, but there is something to be said about the thing that she achieved, like in that year. Like thinking about what 1998 became.
Right.
Like it definitely has something to do with Adam Sandler.
It definitely changed the trajectory of her career.
Yes. I think I said something like, well, she had some stuff she did before that, but that year was really big for her. So anyway, I just love that. And now my aunt will like kind of joke and say like, not a Drewbie.
Okay, a couple other really quick what's new with Drew's, and then we will get into the weekly topic. I know it's been an action package at the top of the episode, but I don't know if you saw pictures, so I'm sure you did, that Drew basically like moderated a Q&A for Adam Sandler's new movie Hustle.
Okay.
You didn't see? There's really cute pictures of them together.
Really I did cute. See a couple, I think, but again, I've been like so tired that I'm gonna have to reread
like,
them.
Did I dream that?
Yeah.
So there's like some brief Instagram video clips that like people in the audience took. So nothing real official, but they're still fun to see. It's always good to see them together.
Yeah.
Very last thing, and I literally just added this to our notes because I just saw it this morning. Are you familiar with that? I guess she's mostly known for a dancer. She's young. Her name's Maddie Ziegler. She was on that Dance Moms show, and then she's in all the Sia videos. I'm sure you're kind of.
I might know her if I saw her, but I'm immediately not remembering her.
She's older. She's probably like 19 or something now, but she she got popular when she was really young. But anyway, she has a huge following. She dressed up like Drew for Halloween and just posted pictures I saw this morning. So she kind of recreated 2 different photo shoots, but her look worked for both of them. One is the 1995 Rolling Stone cover shoot by Mark Seliger. Yeah. And then the other one is the one that appeared in 1994 Sky magazine by Michael Muller, I believe is his name. You know, with the overalls and the daisies and all her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're really cute. She did a great job. She has like the short hair and the daisies and the overalls, and it's really sweet. So I'll share some pictures from that too. But I just reposted it on our Drewsium Instagram this morning on a story. So by the time you hear this, it'll be gone. Cool. But you can go to her Instagram and look at all those.
Awesome.
Yeah. I saw a lot of like movie character costumes from the weekend. Tons of Casey Beckers, of course, because that's just like the most popular costume in the world these days.
Yeah.
I'm like, I did it first. It's so annoying. There were a lot of good like Josie's with the like the lunch tray and the chocolate milk and the white feather outfit.
Oh, funny.
I saw some good wedding singer ones. A lot of people this year dressing like Rob Schneider in 50 First Dates when he's dressed as Lucy, you know, with like the mop hair.
Yes.
I saw babies. I saw all kinds of people doing that one. That's for some reason is very popular this year.
That feels like a deep cut.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. Like
totally.
I appreciate like
a deep cut costume.
Yes, yeah, deep cut costumes. That's really cute and hilarious. I think that we might be ready for our weekly topic. What do you think?
Oh boy, yeah, I think it's time. Let's get there. I need to take a breath.
Yeah. All right, taking a deep breath, ready for this big topic. Okay, so what did we decide on for our weekly topic, and how happy are you to talk about this?
This is a great one. So we are going to talk about Drew's tattoos today, which is really fun because it's kind of a thing that we've always pointed out, like when you can see them or like how exciting it is when this one shows up. You know, people who have been fans of Drew forever, she's had them for so long. There's a lot to talk about here. So we thought it'd be an easy one. And then it ended up getting a lot more information than I expected once I was going through research. So
awesome. Great job on the research.
Thank
I'm looking
you.
forward to going through this because it is a lot of fun. This is something about Drew that I feel like I'm just thinking about like Drew as a person with tattoos. Like it's almost a thing that you could find surprising about her as
these days.
Yeah, like maybe kind of as times she may have been seen as like a girl next door, you know, but she's had this life that's gone in waves and, you know, levels of different personalities and different modes. And I don't know, I feel like all of her tattoos say a lot about the time that she got them. And I think that's why this topic is so fun for us. All of them feel like very true to her in a different way.
Definitely. And like the range of them kind of fits with like the range of her sides of her personality.
Yes, her multifaceted personalities. So let's get into it.
Okay. So just a couple real quick quotes about Drew and tattoos that we've gathered from over the years. One thing she said is that I really like tattoos. It's an expression of how you feel and they're there forever, which is kind of what you were just saying.
Yep, I love it. Another quote is, for someone who's afraid to be trapped and confined, sometimes I bust out and do things that are so permanent.
And she was referencing not just tattoos, but also marriage and that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That I'm like, I could see that coming from this more mature side of her.
She's also many times, I'm sure you remember how many times she's talked about how getting a tattoo is a pleasurable pain.
Yep.
In Details 1997, she said, that pain is like nothing else in the world. And it's so sexual too, you know? I mean, after it's done, you just want to go and drive a car off a cliff or something.
Okay, I love that because
I know.
How is something being so sexual make you want to drive off a cliff? I don't know, but that feels like a Drewism.
Yeah, and I didn't type this up, but she also said afterward, like, okay, kids, don't try this at home.
That's great. But also, I agree. Having recently, within the last couple of months, gotten a new tattoo, like there's something about if you can tolerate it, it has a pleasurable thing about it.
Yeah, I haven't done it in so long, I don't even remember. So I'll take your word for it.
Okay, so she has 10 tattoos in total, which I wouldn't have been able to tell you off the cuff. So it's kind of cool that it's an even beautiful number, like 10.
Easy to remember now.
Yep.
And she's said, just like we were just saying, that there are reflections of times in her life, which is great. So let's get into the details of the tattoos, and we're going to go in chronological order as best as we know when she got them.
Awesome. Okay, so we're starting with the flowers on her hip. It seemed that she was kind of unclear as to when she got it, right? Based on some of the stuff you looked at first.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Drew isn't the best at accurately saying how old she was when something happened, but I'm going to take her word for it on this first one.
Okay, cool. So she said her first, which is a bouquet of flowers on the front of her left hip, she had gotten around the age of 13, which kind of makes sense. But... When was she officially emancipated? Was it 14?
Yeah, it was right before she turned 15.
Okay.
So, but I also could see her walking into a tattoo shop in LA and them just being like, sure.
They're like, oh, Drew Barrymore? Cool.
Yeah.
And it was originally just of a rose when she got it at first.
Yeah, I did not remember that until I was doing the research, but I found a couple places where she said like, oh, I have a tiny red rose, or said like it was originally just a rose. So I had forgotten that completely.
I had forgotten that, but this next part, I do remember this.
Yeah, so she added daisies to it later, and they don't even totally look like daisies, I have to say. It's kind of a weird tattue, and we'll get into her feelings about it.
It is.
But she said that it was done by a big Australian meanie. And she went in and she was like, I want daisies. And he said, I don't do daisies. Lie down. She said, okay. So she said, you know, it's still there, and it's absolutely her least favorite of her tattoos, which is, you know, her first one. I guess that's okay. She said she loves all her other ones, but she said the thing is, I wouldn't have it removed because I just don't believe in that. You were there at one point in your life. Just keep it, damn it.
When is that quote from? When she says, just keep it, damn it.
I believe that whole thing is also from Details 1997. That was a good one for tattoo information.
Okay, cool. So in 1986, talking about this tattoo, she said it was shocking to her that she just really wanted one. And when the guy said he wouldn't do what she wanted, she was just like, okay, draw anything. And then she said, it's not really that cute, but I like it. It reminds me of how I would have taken anything, not necessarily the thing I wanted. Now I have a great deal of patience.
It's a great way of like silver lining looking at it.
And I feel like a lot of people who have tattoos, like you said, end up getting something not so great.
Yeah. I have one that I wouldn't mind not having.
Yeah, I get that.
All right. So we know that her next one would be, I would say, one of her most famous ones, which is the cross that she has on her, let me think about this for a second, right ankle.
Okay.
The first time that I could find visual proof of it was some candids, like an event that she attended in October 1990.
Okay.
So we can assume around that time it fits. So she has the cross. It is wrapped in ivy and roses. Like I said, it's near her right ankle. And she said a couple times that she designed it herself, which I also had forgotten that information.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that too.
Yeah. So she described it as a 4-angled cross because at the end of each end of the cross, there's another cross, basically. Like you kind of know what I mean.
Yes,
I'm not describing that well, but And then she said at that time, she believed that religion and spirituality were everywhere you looked and everything was possible. So that was sort of like her inspiration.
Cool. She also felt that it was a sign when she first read the script for Poison Ivy that the title character, Ivy, has the same tattoo. Although interestingly, of course, we have to kind of mention this, the tattoo that she had on her ankle was then covered.
Right.
And then she had a tattoo instead on her like kind of upper thigh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course it makes sense to be like, oh my God, I also have a cross tattoo. And this was in a time in her life when she was like, I really need to get a role and I really need to get an iconic role that'll take people's minds off of me as a child.
Yeah.
Which was a successful endeavor as far as Poison Ivy goes.
Yeah.
So putting the tattoo in a sexier spot, as you might think.
Yeah, I bet you're right. I bet that was part of it. Plus, she had to like not have it at the beginning and she gets it in the movies. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
She said that it symbolizes pain, death, life, and love. Basically, she said, like, it's my whole theme, crucifixes, which it's not really a crucifix, it's a cross. But
yes,
if you remember, she was wearing cross necklaces all the time in like 1992.
She was.
In 1991, here's a quote that she gave. She said, I've had it like a year. No one sees it, just my friends. Unless I want to be a badass and wear shorts and no socks or something, it's funny. The one person who's afraid of commitment has something that's pretty life lasting, but I can always cover it up if I want.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so next is probably out of these ones my favorite so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so far out of the ones we've talked about.
Okay.
And maybe, I don't know, there's something about it. So it's the moon on her toe, and you may be able to remember which toe it is. Is it her right or left?
It's her right. I only know because I have a note.
Oh, you do? Okay. So by 1992, she and a friend, we don't know who, got friendship tattoos, drew a crescent moon on her right big toe, said she was walking past the tattoo shop with a friend, and they just said, let's get matching tattoos. And they did it.
That's like all we know.
Yeah. And then thanks to Drew Barrymore Daisy for reminding us that there was a talk show appearance where she talked about it, which was Conan 1993, and they have it uploaded on their YouTube. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I messaged them because like I said, it's really hard to find some of these talk show appearances. Yeah. And I, for some reason, was visualizing, and it still might be her third 1995 David Letterman appearance where she's wearing the green top. I think she describes her tattoos in that one, but you can't find that online right now, which is so frustrating. But so I messaged Drew Barrymore Daisy and I was like, can you remember? And they pointed out to me that Conan had a good description. And I was like, cool, now we know. Because I had the note of like her getting it with a friend, but I couldn't find the source. And that was the source. So that was great.
Yes. I think one of the reasons I really love it is because you and I have talked about getting tattoos together for so long and we haven't been able to land on anything.
Never have.
So maybe we just get like a moon and a sun and we call it a day.
Or let's just get the How Do You Drew logo. That would look cool.
Oh, perfect.
Just really big across our backs.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. It's well, I was gonna say it's free advertising, but tattoos aren't free, people.
It pays for itself.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to her cherubs, which are two separate tattoos, both on her lower back. The first one is on the right side, and it's a group of 3 cherubs that are holding a cross, and the cross has her mother's name, Jade, on it, which is very interesting. I think she probably got this, we can guess, around 1992 as well. Well, she for sure had it by 1992. That seemed like a time in their relationship where they were the most close. And then it like maybe never again were they close after that. So not sure what went on, but we can speculate all day about that.
Yep.
I have, and this is like the stupidest, vaguest memory that I was like, do I even mention this? And I only found like one minute piece of evidence that I didn't imagine this. There was this show in the early 2000s called Crossing Over with John Edward.
Yes.
It was like, do you remember this? He's like a medium. Okay.
Yes.
I was obsessed with it for a while. Like I watched it all the time. And Jade was on one time. And like I said, I couldn't find any clips, but I found like one like TV guide that mentioned it or something.
Okay.
And I swear there's something came up, and obviously like, whether you believe in his abilities or not, it would have been very easy for him to get this information. But he does like bring up that tattoo in the, like, he's basically saying like, I don't even remember who he supposedly was communicating with on the other side, that he brings up like, I'm seeing a tattoo with your name or something along those lines. And I don't think they showed a picture, but of course I knew exactly what it was. And says like, oh, Drew has that tattoo or something like that. That's a bit like the only relevant note I have on that tattoo.
That's really funny. But there's also a really wonderful photo of it, like super crisp, clear photograph of it that was in what magazine?
Us, from June 1992, I believe. It's black and white, but it's a great photo.
It's like stunning. Yeah. And the tattoo looks so crisp there. So yeah, like you thinking it was pretty soon before that makes sense.
I think it was very new.
The one other thing I was going to ask is Crossing Over was probably like 2001 or something.
Yeah, that would be exactly 2001 or 2002 because it was when I lived in Irvine.
Because I think I remember seeing that. I probably have it recorded.
Oh shit, really?
Probably, because I feel like I've seen it, and I feel like I've seen it more than once. I didn't watch that show.
Oh god, it's such a vague memory for me.
Or I might be thinking of like a Saturday Night Live parody of it.
Oh, that would actually, you know what? They did do one when Drew was on Saturday Night Live in 2001. I forgot about that. Yes. And she's like, she plays a really weird little character in the audience. She talks about the learning annex. Whenever I hear someone talk about a learning annex, I think of that.
Maybe that's why I'm thinking, well, it would make sense if the show was like popular around that time, why she would have done it at that time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm probably just picturing Drew's.
That's really funny.
Do they keep saying something about like a mustache or maybe?
Yes. Okay. Oh my god. I haven't watched that in so long. God, I wish we had VCRs. I swear.
Well, I do have a VCR, so I just have to. Yeah, so I'll have to like lug my tapes over there.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you tell us about her other cherubs?
Okay, so she does have another cherub in the middle of her lower back holding a banner with the name James for ex-boyfriend Jamie Walters. And it was said that he had one of her name as well. And then she said that if she had found out that he'd covered up his, she would also want to cover up hers. But his name kind of bled into a black bar after they broke up. And you can't read it at all. So she's quoted as saying, you can't even read it. It's so small and the colors have sort of bled into each other. It almost scares me. It sort of disappeared. Isn't that strange? Isn't that indicative? And then she said, his name is gone. It just bled. How insane is that? When my tattoo artist did it, you could definitely read it. But he said, trust me. And I asked why. And he said, just trust me. A year later, the name was gone. And so was Jamie.
The tattoo artist probably didn't need psychic powers to know that. It's probably like, really? You sure you want to get this dude's name on you?
But also, I feel like we read this quote before. So
it's in Rolling Stone 95. So we did bring it up in that episode. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, I feel like I remember reading this before, or you read it before, but okay. So some of some of our info crosses over.
Crossing over with John Edward.
crossing over with Ashley and Anne.
The next tattoo she got is, I would say, her most famous.
I would say so too. Most iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, that is her butterfly. So we know she got this in late 1994. It's the butterfly. It's right underneath her belly button. The first time we ever saw it was in Playboy. And Playboy was a January 1995 issue, which means it probably came out in December 94, which means the photos were done just prior to that. So that's how we know what year she got it. So as most people know, she has always loved the metaphor of butterflies, that you can change and metamorphose and grow and become a more profoundly beautiful and capable human being. On Ruby Wax in 1998, Ruby said, oh God, that's going to stretch out if you ever get pregnant. And Drew said, I think about that all the time.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I know. And she also told Ruby that she felt like she was too old for any more tattoos. She was only 23, which is hilarious.
That's so great.
But a really long stretch did go by before she got any more.
Yes. A lot of time went by. She said she was maybe too old to get more tattoos. Well, 15 years later, she got a small bird on the inside of her right arm in May of 2009. And I just thought it was cute when I remember feeling this when I saw it. There was a time when she was on Rosie. And I think we mentioned this before, where they were building birdhouses. And she said, I love perching birdies.
It is funny. I always think of that when I see that tattoo as well.
Yep.
And we know almost absolutely nothing about that one. Like, it just showed up. She never really talked about it. It was just like this cute little, I'm guessing that was a spontaneous one.
Me too. And for some reason, I always connect it with
Justin Long.
Yeah, for some reason, I always connect it to Justin Long.
You know why? I think there was this magazine feature, I want to say it's for Black Book, where they each like took photos and then like posted like a text conversation between the two of them. And one of the photos, like the best photo of the bird tattoo, is from that.
Oh, awesome. So there
maybe
we go.
That's why.
Yeah, that's probably why. And maybe because they were probably together when she got it, right?
True.
Would that have made sense for this time?
Totally.
So it probably just, I can kind of imagine that he might have been there.
Oh, I bet you're right. That's
Justin,
cute.
Can you confirm that?
Justin, come on our show and tell us.
Oh, Justin.
We love you.
We do love you. Tell us all about your experience of dating Drew and also when she got this tattoo. Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you.
All right. Next one, the Breathe tattoo. We have talked about this briefly because we talked about Brent Kyle in the Whip It episode, but we'll go through it again. So when she attended the London premiere of Going the Distance in August 2010, she had Breathe on her left forearm, but it was just written there like in temporary ink. It wasn't the actual tattoo. And I think there's some people who don't realize that.
Yeah, and I had forgotten that was like a temporary version of it.
Yeah, it's slightly different. So you can kind of tell that she was like workshopping it. As I mentioned before, a Flower Film staffer named Brent Kyle, who was really into like doing a lot of their design stuff.
Yeah.
He actually did the logo for Flower Films that is currently been in use. And it's very similar in style and like font and look to this. So she worked with him on designing the permanent version of this tattoo.
By late February of 2011 is when the new tattoo could be seen on her arm. And it was done by Todd Sorensen between August 2010 and February 2011. A handful of years later, she had decided to get a tattoo of her daughter's names. And it seemed like it was somewhat sporadic, but obviously this is something that would have meant a lot to her and is not like a rash decision. So in March 2016, she got her daughter's names, Olive and Frankie, in her own handwriting on the inside of her right wrist. She said she'd been wanting to do it. And then one day, she said, we were on our way to an appointment. And I was like, can we just quickly stop at this tattoo shop? She walked in and said, who's available to do a tattoo quickly, like right now? And this guy came up and was like, yeah, I can. And so I was like, I'm going to write this down on a piece of paper. And then can you just transfer it onto my arm? And so she has this really simple, totally obviously her own handwriting, because we know her handwriting well. And it just says Olive and Frankie on the inside of her wrist. And I've always loved wrist tattoos. So
me too.
I've always found this one really endearing and sweet for many, many reasons.
Yeah, it's a good one. And she had posted some pictures of her actually getting it, which is cool because like we've never had that kind of access before.
That's right.
And then her last one, talk about access.
Yeah.
So her most current one is on her arm and it says home is where we are. So it's kind of interesting because this is also on her right arm. So it's right in between her daughter's names and her bird. So I don't know like if that's just where she wants all her tattoos now, on her right arm. So in May 2021, she felt like she still wanted to scratch that tattoo itch. So I guess she didn't feel too old anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't an impulse one at all. She had thought about it for many years. So there was like a woman, just a random lady who was getting a tattoo that was meaningful. And Drew said, okay, I'm going to get one with you too on the show. The tattoo artist was Ryan Ashley, who had won, I think they said she was the first female to win the show Ink Masters.
Oh, cool.
And so the quote was basically inspired by her divorce and by having to move to New York after the divorce.
She said, wherever life takes you, if you're lucky enough to be alongside people you love, then to me, that became the definition of home, she said, adding that it's the most important life lesson she learned. My eyes are stinging because I'm crying so much. I want people to feel that no matter where they go in the world, if they're lucky enough to have someone to love, that is so fulfilling. When I was in rental apartments or not knowing where life was going, or so upset that the plans I tried to solidify for my kids had changed, it really led to the discovery of what home really means to me. And that is, if we are together, wherever we are, home is where we are. So that's so really sweet.
I think that is probably her most meaningful tattoo. I think she would say that, at least these days. I mean, it really has a lot of meaning behind it. And she's mentioned many, 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 many times that this was the hardest thing she ever went through in her life, that time period. So to have that come out of it is really beautiful.
In the early 2000s, a book came out called Tattoo Nation that was published by Rolling Stone. And it has a feature. So Drew is on the cover, right?
Yeah, with the butterfly tattoo, the famous picture from Us 1997.
Yes. And then there's an interior image, I think a different image that's from the Rolling Stone cover shoot, right?
From 95, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a whole page where she kind of talks about it. This was a source for some of the stuff in this episode.
Except but one thing I'll point out is she says something like she got her first 6 tattoos when she was 13.
That's right.
Drew.
That's right. I mean, sure, close enough.
We could just say a teenager. Let's say that.
Yeah. Within 5 years, probably, which is a trip. Within 6 years, but either way, it's a little off. But it was I remember being very excited when this came out.
Me too. Yeah, I was working at Barnes and Noble at the time, so I remember buying it with my employee discount.
Awesome.
Very recently on Drew's News, she was talking about like Pete Davidson's tattoos and like him getting Kim Kardashian's name on him. And I was really surprised she didn't say like, oh, I also have an ex's name on me.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't tell if she was talking to Olive about tattoos in general or about her own tattoos. She doesn't really clarify, but she just says they were talking about tattoos. And Olive said, well, you could always get it removed. And Drew said, like, no, you can't. It's permanent. And Olive was like, yeah, you can, Mom. People get them removed. She like didn't even really think about that, which, you know, fits because she has said like, it's a moment in your life, like just keep them. So she never really thought about removing them. But God, I'd be so sad if she ever removed any of hers.
Me too. I was just going to say, I can't imagine her doing it.
Yeah, me neither.
I feel like that would be very unlike her.
Yeah, it's almost like goes against her beliefs.
Yeah, I also feel like, and this is kind of in a similar vein, I can't imagine her getting like work done to her face. And I feel like she was on something where she said like, I've never had any work done.
Yeah, she's mentioned that quite a bit. Like she's not like, never ever would I do it, but she's like, I don't know. I just
haven't, and I'm not sure I would. Yeah, I forget who but it feels like similar, where she's just like, the things that I've done to my body will age as they will.
Yeah.
And we'll see, you know, she could easily change her mind, but I don't feel like at this time in her life, it seems like she would do it. And we'll be here to talk about it when she does. No.
Yeah. You know, we will. Do you want to talk about our own tattoos that have like a Drew inspiration to them?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I want you to talk about yours first. You got your Drew kind of inspired tattoo first. So let's hear about yours.
See, how old was I when I got it? 20, I believe. So I was definitely 20. I had obsessed over the James tattoo, but really just the placement of it, not the look of it. Yeah. There was this issue of Spin magazine that was called The Girl Issue, and I devoured it over and over and over again. And one of the things was just like a list of 100 like girl things, whatever that means. I mean, like I'm kind of rolling my eyes about it now, but and one of the things was Drew tattoo, and it had the picture from the Batman Forever premiere where she's kind of pulling down the back of her slip to show that tattoo.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. And it's funny, like, you know, I don't think, and I hate to even bring this phrase up, but I don't think tramp stamp was a thing at that time. It kind of came up later, but I just obsessed over it. And I wanted a butterfly because I do love her butterfly tattoo, but I didn't want it on my stomach because no. So for like 2 years, I obsessed over this. I actually even remember being in college and going to a theme park and they were doing henna tattoos. And I got a henna butterfly tattoo, not on my lower back, but elsewhere.
Oh, I was just going to say.
Yeah, okay. I was wearing overalls that day, so that wouldn't have worked. But anyway, so obsessed over it. But I never had it like designed or anything like that. I just thought about that placement.
Yeah.
So it was like a really well thought out, but then totally spur of the moment, not planned tattoo.
Yeah.
So I got it just like one day out of nowhere. I was just with a friend and we just were like, hey, I should go get my tattoo. Let's go get tattoos. So we went to this random place in Newport Beach, and this is so funny, but they had no pre-designed butterflies in the shop. Like, the guy who was like, I don't have any butterflies, which is so weird to think about because it seems so common.
Yeah.
So he's like, I could just draw something. And kind of like Drew with her first one, I was just like, whatever. Okay, just make something and I'll go with it.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, I'm like, God, I should have had someone actually design it. But
wow.
I really wanted to do it right then and there. So yeah, I had a butterfly put on my lower middle back, exactly where her James tattoo is. And I still love it. It could definitely use some refreshers, but it's just like after 2 years of obsessing over that placement to finally do it was pretty fun.
Yep. And then you were with me when I got my first tattoo.
That's right. In LA.
I think
we were in
I had
Hollywood,
just
right?
turned 19. Let's see if that's right. Do we think 2003 sounds right?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Yes.
So when I turned 19, I had thought for a long time about wanting a tattoo in red ink. And oddly enough, I had been obsessed with Brandon Boyd's red tattoos. I was
going to say, as soon as you said red ink, I was like, wait, does this have something to do with Brandon Boyd?
Well, it does, because I originally wanted a red ink tattoo, no black outline on my wrists.
Okay.
And I had tried to figure out what it was going to be for a long time. I mean, a long time might be a couple of years.
Sure.
Donnie Darko was a movie that I loved, like, from the moment I saw it. And one of the, like, significant things in it is the jet engine. So if you have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I won't really talk more about the film otherwise. But the jet engine has a red spiral on kind of like the front of the engine. And in the commentary of Donnie Darko on the DVD, Richard Kelly, the writer-director, talks about that the red spiral, the decision to have the jet engine have the red spiral, was somehow inspired by the Fibonacci spiral, which is this sequence that many things in nature follow. But I was like, okay, I became obsessed with Fibonacci sequence. I already loved Donnie Darko, so I decided I was going to get a red spiral in just red ink. I can't remember how I eventually decided on the placement, but instead of being on my wrists, it's on like kind of my hips, near my hip bones. They're really tiny, like maybe the size of a quarter, like really, really tiny. So I have no regret about them, except that I wish they were larger.
I have a question. Do you think the placement was at all inspired by Drew's flower tattoo?
It could be.
Okay.
It definitely could be. I can't recall exactly. The tattoo was done by a female tattoo artist in Hollywood. I don't know her name. I kind of forget about them sometimes.
I get that. I always forget about my star on the back of my neck. And then like somebody will bring it up to me. I'm like, what?
What?
Oh, yeah.
And I won't blabber on too much longer, but I do have another tattoo that is somewhat inspired by Drew, in the sense that I always kind of wanted a butterfly because I loved that sort of like metamorphosis thing. And
yeah,
if Ashley and I are like yin and yang, Ashley's definitely the light and I'm definitely the dark. So I have more of a fascination with moths than butterflies.
That's a really funny way of putting it, but it's so accurate.
So I within a couple of years I decided I wanted to get a moth tattooed, and then last year I decided it would be a Luna moth. Got a Luna moth tattooed on my left inner arm.
Cool.
Yes, so me getting that, and kind of I'm going through a lot of change in my life, so I sort of have this like, okay, now's the time to get it, to like signify Maine, which is where I'll be living almost full time starting next year, and then also just wanting to get that tattoo.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's pretty much all our info on Drew's tattoos. I thought real quick we could quickly touch on piercings because it's sort of related.
Yeah.
And I just found this really like funny in the like, poor Drew, this is so annoying kind of way.
Yeah.
So in 1993, she attended the Billboard Music Awards. I think she presented. And for whatever reason, this really obnoxious radio DJ on Kiss FM in LA, his name was Rick Dees. I don't know if he's still around. He decided that he was going to start a rumor right after that she got pierced down there. Her publicist like found out about it before he said it and said like, please don't, this is not true. But he did it anyway.
I wonder how her publicist found out.
I know. They're like, oh, just FYI, we're going to bring this up and you have no say in the matter. And she was like, if I had one, I would be proud and like admit it was true. But why would I inflict that sort of pain on myself? And when I was doing the research for our Scream episode during one of the press junket interviews, this came up and she was still really mad about it. Like, she's like, that Rick Dees, I'll show him where he can pierce himself. Like, she's still
I wanted to ask you something. Is that why there was that illustration
from Entertainment Weekly with like tongue piercings and stuff?
Yeah, what did her shirt say?
Oh, I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
There's one where it's like pierced something. It's probably related to this story.
I bet you're right. That's funny. And so she's talking about it in this Scream press junket, and she was like, all these kids come up and talk to me and I see they have tongue piercings and I'm like, the tongue is a very sacred orifice. Don't do that. Like, she was just like so against it. So it's pretty funny that in 2008, when she was doing Whip It, she got her tongue pierced. Like, to see that interview and then think about that, it's like, oh, she really changed her mind about that.
But I'm sure it was like having to do with being authentic in the character. She was
Definitely.
Like, all right, to be Ashley Simpson, I feel like I need this tongue piercing. I feel like it adds to the character in a weird kind of fun way.
And she kept it for like a year, as we mentioned in our Whip It episode.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
That's really cute. She does have a lot of ear piercings, though. She got her first one on her 10th birthday. We talked about this before because Olive also got her ears pierced on her 10th birthday. Drew had promised that she would wait until she was 10. Promised Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Really
so it's really cute.
I like that she carried that tradition on for Olive.
Really cute.
So this year, on the Drew Barrymore Show, again, I can't remember if someone else was getting a piercing and she's like, I'm going to do it too. But basically she got some more piercings in her ears. So she said in that clip that she had 8 already, which is interesting because she never wore earrings in those holes, like ever. Like, you could see, and I've tried to find like where I've seen pictures that it's really clear, but you could see the holes. 8 little holes. Yeah. When she got this done, she finally started wearing like a bunch of earrings and it looks so beautiful.
Cool.
So she got more piercings on the show. I think just one more in each ear. It actually isn't very clear. There's this really long sort of like behind the scenes thing that they do and put on their YouTube. I'll share a link. But she starts talking about all kinds of stuff while they're doing the piercings. Like, it gets pretty deep.
Okay.
So like the piercing feels very secondary. Like, if you're not paying attention, you almost forget that that's happening as she's talking.
Yes.
But there were some beautiful photos that I think the piercer posted, and unfortunately I didn't put down the name, but really great photos of her ears and all the beautiful jewelry in them. So we'll share.
Oh, cool. We have pictures to share.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that basically wraps up our tattoo topic.
Yay.
This is a big one. I feel like this is something that, I mean, I've always loved tattoos.
Yeah.
And especially Drew's tattoos.
I know. And it's also, at least in the like early days, like pre-internet, I feel like a lot of wrong information was out there about what tattoos she had or how many.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun to be like, here's a like chronological, when she got them, what they are, what they mean.
Yes, this is the definitive guide to Drew's tattoos.
That's what we like to be.
Thank you for listening to our definitive guide to Drew Barrymore's tattoos up to
up to
October 2022.
I feel like we should put that in the podcast episode description. This is the definitive guide.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We love sharing all of our Drew knowledge with you guys and, going down memory lane on old Drewby stuff. It's really fun. Like we mentioned before, we'd always appreciate if you could rate, review, and subscribe. You can leave reviews on Apple Podcasts, and you can rate and subscribe on any other platform you may be listening to. I think it probably helps us get more listeners, so we'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then be sure to go over and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at HowDoYouDrewPod.
And send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com. It can be anything. Tell us about your Drew Aspire tattoo.
Oh, that would be great. I would
that would
love
be really
that.
Cool.
Please, somebody.
Yeah, that would be great. So, if you've got one, even if just, sort of like mine, like tangentially, like let's hear it. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next Drew's Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The How Do You Drew podcast is researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com. Our theme song is by our dear friend Matt Costa, and we'll see you next Tuesday.